Got some good news and some bad news for you here today on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. The good news is several Bruins players were removed from the COVID list and able to practice on Sunday. The bad news is one more player was added to the list, and it's going to be a few more days until we see the black and gold back in action. We're going to talk about all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Boston Bruins.
You're Locked On Bruins, your daily podcast on the Boston Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Bruins fans, and welcome back to the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. I'm your host, Ian McLaren, and this is a daily show where we discuss all things spoke to be, as well as take a look around the NHL. Today is Monday, December 27th, and I hope you all had a wonderful holiday weekend. For those of you who celebrate Christmas, Merry Christmas, Happy Boxing Day. For those of you who don't, hope you had a great Saturday, Sunday. Bessie, say hello. And as you can see, if you're watching on the video feed, I got some Bruins stuff in my stocking and under the tree. A nice new Adidas Tuukka Marchand, Pasternak, Bergeron, and McAvoy t-shirt. And I also got this goalie Playmobil figure for my desk. And of course, I put number 40 on it for Tuukka Rask. Speaking of YouTube, the podcast is available to watch there. So please do subscribe on Locked On Bruins. You can also find the podcast in your podcast feeds, no matter what one you use, free to download every day. Thank you so much for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen. Now, we did not have a podcast on Friday, which was Christmas Eve. I hope you all understand that. That night, it was announced that the league would not resume play on today, the December 27th, as was scheduled. That means that tonight's game that was scheduled at TD Garden between the Bruins and the Pittsburgh Penguins has been postponed. And so the league took a break with the plan to come back as early as tomorrow, December 28th. In the meantime, the Bruins returned to practice on Sunday, as did all teams who are able around the NHL. 7 players cleared the NHL's protocol and took part in the nearly hour-long session at Warrior Ice Arena. But Charlie Coyle was added to the list, joining Taylor Hall, Brandon Carlo, and Oscar Steen as those who remained sidelined. Patrice Bergeron, Brad Marchand, Craig Smith, Curtis Lazar, Trent Frederick, Anton Bleed, and Jeremy Swayman were all on the ice after spending time in COVID protocol over the past 2 weeks. So the good news is a bunch of guys back, but the bad news is Charlie Coyle has been added to the list. The NHL also announced on Boxing Day, December 26th, that Wednesday's game in Ottawa between the Senators and the Bruins has been postponed. A makeup date for the game has yet to be established. Those of you who know me know that I grew up in Ottawa, currently live in Guelph, which is just west of Toronto, but I grew up in Ottawa. My family's there, my parents, my sister. We had actually planned to travel to Ottawa today to spend a few days there and also take in that game at Canadian Tire Center on Wednesday, but it's been postponed, and who knows when exactly it will take place. Hopefully the makeup date is convenient to travel on a weekend per se, or March break. Now, that brings Boston's number of postponed games up to a total of 6. There was a games back-to-back last weekend in Montreal and Ottawa that were postponed. 2 home games before Christmas, one against Carolina, one against Colorado that was postponed. Tonight's game at home against Pittsburgh, and then Wednesday's game in Ottawa. The Bruins are next scheduled to be back in action on Saturday, January 1st, 1 p.m. at home against the Buffalo Sabres. And that, hopefully that is able to go ahead. Bruins should be able to have a team in play by then, although the Sabres were hit with a couple COVID cases over the break, including head coach Don Granato, Dylan Cousins, among those. Now, of course, we know that February, the dates between the 6th and the 22nd have opened up, and the Bruins are going to have maybe those 6 games put in there. There's 3 home games, 3 away games, 2 in Ottawa. Maybe they can do like 2 games and 2 nights in Ottawa to bang those out. But January was already pretty busy for this team. We know the back half of this, not even the back half. They've only played 26 games, 56 games to fit into the schedule between January 1st and their last scheduled game, which is April 29th in Toronto. So will the NHL have to extend the season into May? Who knows? But yeah, it's going to be quite a stretch here for the Bruins, trying to fit those 56 games into the 2022 portion of the NHL season. Now, speaking of Bruins on the ice, Bruins prospects, I had hoped to watch Fabian Lysell play for Team Sweden at the World Junior Championship yesterday. He was not in the lineup due to a conflicting reports. I heard some non-COVID related illness. I also heard just injured kind of day to day. Sweden is scheduled to play again today, and hopefully we get an update on Lysell and when he could be back in the lineup. Yesterday, some very exciting action. Both Canada and the USA played, and they both won. Canada beat Czechia 6-3. USA won 3-2. Sweden, how did they do? I'm not even sure, but hopefully they can get where Lysell can play here on Monday in their team's next game. So that's something to keep an eye on for sure. Before we move on to some notes from practice yesterday, quick word about Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar on the market. And you can visit built.com today to take advantage of some great deals that they have going on right now. You can mix and match a box and pick your favorite flavors. There's so many good ones. It's snowing here today. A great day to grab a Built Bar puff with that marshmallow filling, dip it in some hot chocolate. Such a great treat. Go to built.com right now. Use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's LOCKED15 for 15% off your order at built.com. They are low in calories, low in sugar, low in net carbs, low in fat, but high in protein and delicious, covered in 100% chocolate. Just a great treat to get through the workday or your workout. So go to built.com, pick some, and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Thank you again for making Locked On Boston Bruins your first listen in 2021. Just a huge improvement over the previous year. Weekly growth, monthly growth. I really do appreciate it and hope that we can keep it going here in 2022. Tell your friends about the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, and let's keep growing the game and growing the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast. Now, as I mentioned, a bunch of guys gathered at Warrior on Sunday for the team's first practice in a few days. One of the guys who entered protocol was Brad Marchand. He said he had a stuffy nose, a little congestion, some body aches or headache for about a day and a half or 2 days. Pretty easy going the whole time, mild symptoms. Curtis Lazar, he was the other player to return who was symptomatic. He was cleared before the recommended 10-day quarantine period. So he had 2 negative tests. allowed him to come back a bit sooner. So it's a different story for everybody. All the Bruins, of course, were double vaxxed, and this Omicron variant seems to be a bit milder, not hitting people as hard, especially if you are vaccinated. So the Bruins, again, game tonight postponed, a game on Wednesday postponed. The Bruins have not played since December 16th, a loss to the Islanders with a very patchwork roster due to some COVID players on protocol. And now they have a 6-day window to guys come filtering in and get ready for the game against Buffalo on Saturday. Bruce Cassidy said it's kind of like a mini training camp, and just trying to get back into game shape and work out some of the kinks that have been hindering this team early on in terms of wins, production, goal scoring, etc. Now, Tuukka Rask did practice with the Bruins on Sunday. He continues to rehab from off-season hip surgery. Bruce Cassidy said he was told that Rask might be cleared early and perhaps within the next couple of weeks, which is pretty crazy. That means the Bruins could be, a couple weeks away from having to make a decision on re-signing him, what to do with Jeremy Swayman in the meantime, whether to send him down to the AHL or to put him on the taxi squad, which the NHL has brought back until the All-Star break. I believe they can carry 6 players on the taxi squad for kind of emergency COVID-related absences. John Moore was recalled the other day. He's the first player added to the taxi squad, and he could have a pretty prominent role here over the next little bit with Jakub Zboril out of the lineup as well. But when it comes to Rask, Marchand said he's obviously one of the best goalies in the world. His abilities are impressive. That's why he's been one of the best players in the league for the last 10, 15 years, whatever it's been. It's great that he's getting close to getting back, but we have a big job to do the rest of the year, regardless of who's in net. Got to keep building. Starts from the first game whenever we play again, and we'll kind of go from there. It's important for him to practice. Got to see him in some live action. When they're on the road, he's limited in practice, obviously through the COVID break. So he's going to need a couple more weeks at least to get back in shape. Marchand also had some interesting comments about COVID-19, about the Olympics. When it comes to the testing system, he said he would like to see one that's similar to the NFL, which announced they're only going to test symptomatic individuals. He said the whole thing's tough because there's obviously a valid argument on both sides where this could be the new norm with variants coming around every year, something we're going to have to live with. Can't be doing this year in and year out, though. At some point, we have to get back to some normalcy. Guys have done what they're supposed to, get vaccinated and all that stuff. Needs to get there soon. Can't continually have holdups in the league if guys are fine. No reason that we shouldn't be able to play. Hopefully we get to that soon. Now, of course, the counter argument to that is if you're asymptomatic, you can still spread it. And, that's obviously a concern for those who have chosen not to get vaccinated or people with underlying health conditions. But it seems like this is a growing sentiment around the league. But Steve Yzerman was pretty vocal about it last week as well. Marchand added it was very disappointing to have the NHL pull its players from the 2022 Winter Olympics due to the disruption caused by COVID-19 over the last few weeks. He was aiming to make his first appearance with Team Canada. He has played at the World Cup, scored the game-winning goal for Canada a few years ago. He said it's extremely disappointing. Guys have worked their entire lives, put themselves in a position to compete at that level and that opportunity. And it should be individuals' decisions, he said, whether they choose to go or not, regardless of what's happening in the world. If the Olympics are on and they're playing, the best players in the world should have that option. So it's tough to deal with. Totally understand the disappointment from the NHL's perspective. Obviously, they have to try to fit these games in. And also, there's that quarantine period in China if you do contract COVID over there. And, the Bruins, for instance, simply could not afford to risk having Marchand, Bergeron, Pasternak, McAvoy be exposed over there and have to stay there for an additional 3 to 5 weeks or whatever. Brandon Carlo remains in COVID-19 protocol. His Boro lost for the season. So I mentioned John Moore likely to have an extended stay with the big club. Expect to see Johnny here for a stretch unless there's a production issue or someone in Providence that we can't turn down. AHL transactions only lists Moore as the call-up for Providence at the moment. But we should expect some more to come as that taxi squad gets filled up. Maybe even Chris Wagner will get a look on the taxi squad. So that's the latest from the Black and Gold over the weekend. Bunch of players back, Coyle in there, and no games until at least Saturday in Buffalo against the Sabres. No, actually, that is a home game, isn't it? At home, TD Garden. Pardon? A couple minutes, yep. Sorry, there's obviously kids running around here as it is the holidays. And our oldest wants to snag my mic. Before we get to some news and notes from around the NHL, BetOnline is the place you need to be for all your pro college football action, as well as pro college basketball, hockey, boxing, UFC. They have all the props, odds, and lines that you need as all these leagues march towards their playoff and championship seasons. Head to their website or use your mobile device to sign up today. Receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit by using promo code LOCKEDON. It's the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports. Don't wait to take advantage of all the new amazing offers available at BetOnline, where the game starts. So yeah, I mentioned the NHL bringing back the taxi squads. 3 games in total have been postponed, not just the Bruins game on Wednesday, but also a Columbus-Chicago game tomorrow and a Pittsburgh-Toronto game on the 28th. Again, temporary formation of taxi squads and temporary changes to the CBA to address issues related to the ongoing COVID pandemic. Taxi squads. Clubs will be permitted to form taxi squads on a temporary basis beginning December 26th, lasting through the date of their final game prior to the scheduled All-Star break. After each club's final game before the All-Star break, its taxi squad will dissolve, and then they can reassign the players to the minor leagues. Clubs will be permitted to assign a maximum of 6 players to their taxi squad. All such assignments will be subject to waiver requirements as applicable, and no player can spend more than 20 days on the taxi squad. So they either have to be put on the roster or sent back down after that time. They can travel and practice with the club, but they can only play in an NHL game if placed on the club's active roster before no later than 5 p.m. before on the day of a game. So very interested to see who will be on that taxi squad, who will be in the actual lineup, who's cleared to play, and if any of these guys do get into these games. And again, Tuukka Rask, the other big story over the last couple of weeks. He could be ready to play in about 3 weeks, around January 18th. The Bruins host the Hurricanes that day, and they were factoring in a trip from January 8th to 12th at Tampa, Washington, and Montreal as a possible return after that trip. And they'll have to get him signed and see if they're able to come to some sort of agreement with Rask about his return, which would be a huge boost to the club for sure. Anyways, that's it for today's episode. A bit of a short one, just catching you all up on what's been going on. Again, I hope you had a great holiday break. Now, we had a pretty quiet Christmas day, just the 5 of us putting some toys together, playing. Our middle kid got a new basketball net for his bedroom, pretty heavy duty backboard and rim. So we were doing some alley-oops on that. Family gathering yesterday after all of us were rapid tested and all the like. And then, just going to spend the next few days pretty much laying low. I've been doing a Leftovers rewatch on HBO, which is one of my favorite shows. Just enjoying time with family and really missing the Bruins for sure. But hopefully they can play on Saturday. And in the meantime, there is Fabian Lysell at the World Juniors that we can hopefully watch beginning today after he missed yesterday's game due to non-COVID related illness and or injury, depending on who you ask. Really looking forward to seeing him in action. They play today against Slovakia at 7:30 Eastern time. They beat Russia on Sunday by a score of 6-3 without Lysell. Russia really seeming to be lacking some of their better players, which they didn't bring, guys who are playing in North America, which political, but also not smart. So that's it for today's episode, friends. I hope you're all keeping well. Hang in there, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow here on the Locked On Boston Bruins podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your favorite team every single day. Take care.